The moment everything falls apart is the same moment everything finally comes together. Just when it feels like there's no way out, no time left, no hope, that's exactly when the rescue begins. Episode 9 isn't just another chapter, it's the turning point where loyalties are tested, emotions explode, and one decision changes everything. Because Lord Jon isn't just in danger anymore, he's running out of time. And the people who come to save him? They're not ready for what this mission is about to cost them. What makes this situation so intense is how quickly it spirals out of control right after the events of Episode 8. One moment, there's tension, unresolved emotions, and fragile peace, and the next, everything is shattered. Lord Jon's kidnapping doesn't just raise the stakes, it completely shifts the focus of every character involved. This isn't personal drama anymore. This is survival. And the deeper you look into it, the more you realize that this rescue mission isn't just about saving one man. It's about confronting everything that's been left unsaid between the people trying to save him. For William, this changes everything in a way he probably wasn't prepared for. Just when he was starting to process his emotions, starting to lower his guard, starting to even consider rebuilding something with Jaime, he's thrown straight into chaos. And what makes it even more complicated is the fact that Lord Jon isn't just someone he knows, he's someone who's been a constant presence in his life. There's history there, loyalty, a connection that can't just be ignored. So when he realizes what's happened, walking away isn't even an option. But at the same time, stepping into this rescue means standing side by side with Jaime again. And that's not something he's fully comfortable with yet. And that's where things start to get really interesting. Because Jaime isn't just dealing with the urgency of saving Lord Jon, he's also dealing with William. Every decision they make, every move forward, carries that underlying tension between them. They might be working toward the same goal, but that doesn't erase the past. If anything, it brings it right to the surface. And in a situation like this, where every second counts, there's no room to avoid those emotions anymore. They have to face them, whether they're ready or not. At the same time, the condition Lord Jon is in makes everything even more urgent. From what we've already seen, it's clear he's not being held under any kind of mercy. The bruising, the violence, it all points to something much darker going on behind the scenes. This isn't just a simple kidnapping. There's intention behind it, a purpose. And that's what makes the situation even more dangerous. Because if the people holding him have a plan, then waiting too long isn't just risky, it could be fatal. And then there's Percy. His involvement adds a whole new layer of complexity to everything. On one hand, he played a role in setting this up, whether directly or indirectly. But on the other hand, his feelings toward Lord Jon have never been simple. There's conflict there, regret, maybe, and that kind of emotional conflict can change everything at the last moment. Because if Percy starts to question what he's done, if he hesitates even for a second, that could be the opening Jaime and William need. But trusting him? That's a completely different story. And the risk of relying on someone who might switch sides at any moment, that's the kind of risk that could either save Lord Jon, or destroy any chance of getting to him in time. What really builds the suspense here is how uncertain everything feels. Nothing is guaranteed. Even though a rescue mission seems inevitable, the outcome is anything but predictable. This season has already shown that it's willing to take unexpected turns, to push characters into situations where there's no easy resolution. And that's exactly what makes this moment so powerful. Because as much as everyone wants to believe that Lord Jon will be saved, there's always that lingering doubt, that fear that things won't go as planned. And while all of this is unfolding, there's still the emotional weight of everything that's happened before. The conversations that were never finished. The feelings that were never fully expressed. This mission forces all of that into the open. It's not just about strategy or timing. It's about trust. About whether these characters can put aside their differences long enough to do what needs to be done. And that's not an easy thing to ask, especially when the past is still so fresh. Because at the end of the day, this rescue mission isn't just about saving Lord Jon. It's about what happens after. It's about the consequences, the relationships that will either be rebuilt or completely broken. And the closer they get to finding him, the more intense everything becomes. Every step forward feels heavier. Every decision feels more dangerous. And the question isn't just whether they'll reach him in time, it's what they'll have to sacrifice to make that happen. What makes this rescue mission even more intense is the moment it actually begins to take shape. Because once the shock settles, once the reality of what's happened fully sinks in, there's no more hesitation. Jaime doesn't wait, doesn't second guess, he moves. And that urgency sets the tone for everything that follows. There's no time for long discussions or careful planning. Every second matters now. But even in that rush, you can feel that this isn't just about action, it's about pressure building from every direction at once. William, on the other hand, is pulled into this in a completely different way. For him, it's not just about saving Lord Jon, it's about proving something, maybe even to himself. After everything that's happened, after all the anger and confusion he's been carrying, this mission becomes more than just a rescue. It becomes a chance to step up, to act, to stop running from everything he's been feeling. But at the same time, that doesn't mean he's suddenly at peace. The tension between him and Jaime is still there, just under the surface. And now, instead of avoiding it, they're forced to work through it in real time. That's where the dynamic between them starts to shift in a subtle but powerful way. Because in a situation like this, words don't matter as much as actions. They don't need to sit down and resolve everything, they need to trust each other in the moment. And that's not easy, especially when trust has already been broken before. But little by little, through the decisions they make, through the way they move forward together, something starts to change. Not completely, not perfectly, but enough to make a difference. At the same time, the deeper they get into this mission, the more dangerous it becomes. This isn't a straightforward rescue where they know exactly where to go and what to expect. There are too many unknowns. Too many moving pieces. And the people holding Lord Jon clearly have control of the situation, for now. That imbalance creates a constant sense of tension, because it means Jaime and William aren't just racing against time, they're stepping into a situation where they're already at a disadvantage. And then Percy comes back into the picture in a way that changes everything. Because information is power in a moment like this, and Percy might be the only one who has it. The question is, can he be trusted? That uncertainty hangs over every decision. Because if Percy is telling the truth, if he's genuinely conflicted and trying to fix what he's been part of, then he could be the key to finding Lord Jon before it's too late. But if he's not, if there's even a small part of him still playing both sides, then trusting him could lead them straight into a trap. What makes Percy's position so compelling is that he doesn't feel like a simple villain. There's hesitation in him. There's emotion. And that makes him unpredictable. Because someone who's fully committed to one side is easier to understand. But someone who's torn? Someone who's caught between what they've done and what they feel? That's where things get complicated. And in a mission where clarity is already limited, that kind of complication can be dangerous. As the plan starts to come together, you can feel the weight of everything pressing down on them. It's not just about finding Lord Jon, it's about getting to him before whatever plans are in motion reach their end. And the closer they get, the more it feels like they're running out of time. Every lead feels fragile. Every step forward could be the wrong one. And yet, stopping isn't an option. Meanwhile, there's also the emotional toll that no one is really talking about. Because even though they're focused on the mission, even though they're pushing forward without looking back, everything they've been through is still there. For Jaime, this is personal in more ways than one. For William, it's a test of who he is and who he's becoming. And for both of them, this journey is forcing them to confront things they might not have been ready to face. And that's what makes this section of the story so gripping. It's not just the danger or the urgency, it's the fact that everything is happening at once. The external threat, the internal conflict, the uncertainty of who to trust, it all builds together, creating this constant tension that never really lets up. Because even as they move closer to Lord Jon, there's no sense of relief. If anything, it only gets heavier. Because deep down, there's a growing realization that finding him might just be the beginning. The closer they get, the more everything starts to feel off. Not in an obvious way, not something they can immediately point to, but enough to make every step heavier than the last. Because at this point, it's no longer just about reaching Lord Jon. It's about what they're walking into. And the deeper they go, the clearer it becomes that this isn't a simple holding situation. There's structure here. Planning. Intent. Whoever is behind this didn't just act on impulse, they've been waiting for this moment. And that realization changes the energy completely. Jaime starts to slow things down, not out of fear, but out of instinct. He knows this kind of setup. He's seen it before. Situations where rushing in doesn't just fail, it makes things worse. But that creates a new kind of tension, because time is exactly what they don't have. Every second they spend being cautious is another second Lord Jon is out there, injured, possibly suffering. And balancing those two things, speed and strategy, becomes almost impossible. William feels that pressure more than anyone. For him, slowing down feels wrong. It feels like giving up ground when they should be pushing forward. And that difference in approach starts to create friction again. Not the same kind as before, not fueled by anger or resentment, but something sharper, more urgent. Because now it's about choices that could determine whether Lord Jon lives or not. And when the stakes are that high, even the smallest disagreement starts to feel like a major risk. But what really shifts everything is when they finally get close enough to confirm where Lord Jon is being held. That moment, it's not relief. It's something else entirely. Because seeing the place, understanding the setup, it makes one thing very clear. This is going to be harder than they thought. There are more people involved, more control, more risk, and suddenly, the idea of just going in and getting him out doesn't feel realistic anymore. Inside, Lord Jon's condition becomes even more concerning. He's not just being held, he's being broken down. Physically, yes, but also mentally. The bruises, the exhaustion, the way he's being handled, it all points to something calculated. They're not just keeping him alive. They're trying to get something from him. Information, leverage, power, whatever it is, it means he's not just a hostage. He's a target. And that's where the urgency hits its peak. Because now, it's not just about time, it's about what happens if they're too late. If Lord Jon gives in, if he's pushed too far, the consequences could go far beyond just this moment. And Jaime knows that. You can see it in the way he starts to think, the way every move becomes more precise. This isn't just rescue anymore. This is prevention. At the same time, Percy's role becomes even more critical, and even more uncertain. Being this close to the truth forces him into a position where he can't stay neutral anymore. He either helps them fully, or he doesn't. There's no middle ground left. And you can feel that shift in him. The hesitation is still there, but now it's mixed with something stronger. Guilt. Fear. Maybe even regret. But the question is whether that's enough to push him to act, or if it will make him freeze when it matters most. And that uncertainty follows them into the final stages of the plan. Because now they have to decide, do they go in quietly, risking failure if anything goes wrong? Or do they act fast and aggressively, risking Lord Jon's life in the process? There's no perfect choice. No guaranteed outcome. Just different kinds of danger. What makes this moment so powerful is how everything comes together at once. The emotional tension between Jaime and William hasn't disappeared, but now it's being channeled into something else. Focus. Determination. A shared goal that's finally stronger than their differences. And then, they find him. That moment, when they finally reach Lord Jon, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels heavy. Because the condition he's in says everything without a single word. The injuries, the exhaustion, the way he can barely hold himself together, it's worse than they expected. For a second, everything slows down. The mission, the danger, the urgency, it all fades into the background as the reality of what he's been through sinks in. But there's no time to stay in that moment. Because getting to him was only half of it. Getting out, that's where everything becomes even more dangerous. The second they try to move him, the pressure comes back, stronger than before. Every step is harder now. They're not just navigating the situation anymore, they're carrying it with them. And that changes everything. Because now, one wrong move doesn't just risk the mission, it risks Lord Jon's life directly. This is where the emotional tension reaches its peak. Jaime isn't just focused, he's protective in a way that's impossible to ignore. There's history there, respect, loyalty, and maybe even guilt for not getting there sooner. And William sees that. He understands it, even if it's not said out loud. And for the first time, there's no resistance between them. No distance. Just a shared understanding of what matters in this moment. At the same time, Percy's role finally reaches its breaking point. This is the moment where he has to decide who he really is. Not in words, not in intentions, but in action. And whatever choice he makes here defines everything. Because if he helps them, truly helps them, then he's risking everything he's been part of. But if he doesn't, if he hesitates or pulls back, then there's no coming back from that either. And that decision, whatever it turns out to be, sends a ripple through the entire situation. Because trust, once broken, doesn't come back easily. And in a moment like this, trust is everything. It determines who makes it out, and who doesn't. As they fight their